Hello, everyone. Nice to see you all here. Shall I ask you now, please, on the chat box, write your name and where you are from, and maybe what you do. Are you a teacher at university? Are you a teacher at school? So you have about 2 minutes for this. Please start writing on the chat box your name, where are you from, university, school. Okay, we've got here people from Samarkand, Tashkent. So, wow, people from different parts of Uzbekistan, which is good. Rano Raziko, White. I have my colleagues here as well. Welcome. Tashkent State Law. Okay, Erkin State. Okay, South Korea. We have got people from South Korea.
Yes. Turkey.
Wow, okay.
You see, we're worldwide famous. Canada, and we have a look back from US.
Wow. Okay, yes. People from different parts of Uzbekistan. Okay, all right. Thank you so much. You can still continue writing in the chat box. It's fine. Nadirapa and I will be looking at the chat box from time to time as well. And if you have questions, please freeze your questions until the end of the presentation. If there is an urgent question, you might use the hands up button of the Zoom, and you can ask. If I can't see, I can answer, or Nadirapa might raise the question to me. Okay, thank you so much. And so I will be asking questions. I hope I will be able to handle my online presentation now. So far, it's been a little difficult, so let's see. I don't know. Okay, okay, I should be here. I should remove the chat now, I'm sorry. Okay. Okay, now I would like to explore your, first of all, experience about assessment. So do you assess vocabulary? How often do you do if you assess it? And how do you do this? Again, time for chat box, please write if you assess, how often do you assess and how do you do this? Shortly, not a big paragraph because this is a chat box. Please. Quizzes, Kahoot, okay, good. Good involvement of technology. I like it. Games, good. Kahoot, Quizlet, wow, good. Tests. When it is tests, so I should understand multiple choice tests or what? Matching meaning, okay, good. Test quiz, okay. Each lesson, mini quizzes, warm up, okay. Matching, some kinds of activities, Kahoot, okay. I see that people use a lot of technology, that's great. Pictures, Kahoot, dictation, worksheets, corporate-based activities, good.
So it seems you don't need to present today, right?
Well, yeah, I think Yes, that's right.
Talk to each other.
It looks like you guys are more experienced than me, so I think there is nothing that you can learn from me. Okay, okay. Debate, speech contest. Aha. Okay, no way. Oh, Aelita is writing no way. Okay, I know Aelita. You are quite knowledgeable. Okay.
No, no, I think they're now just laughing from what I said. Yeah, from my comment. Yeah.
Okay, spelling bee contest. Okay, thank you so
Mm.
much. Right. Okay, in the next activity, in the next slide, I would ask you to do something. This is what I did earlier with my Webster students, but Webster students, please don't just give hints. Because during observations and visiting different places, I have seen a lot of, okay, what happened? Yes, oops, sorry. Okay, now, just checking your vocabulary. Can you please just translate these words into your own language? Whatever your language is, can it be Uzbek, Russian, Kazakh, or Turkish, or Korean? Although I don't know them, I'm sorry. But try to translate these words into your own language. For example, bat, pen, roll, sink, run, rose, bar, and jam. Right, I'll give you 1 minute. You can write the translations in the chat box. I'm sorry that we are working a lot with the chat box because this should be interactive as well. Thank you so much. Kursha Palak, Ruchka, Bat, Krisa, okay. Kursha Palak, Sink, Rakavina, okay. Lituche, Mwish, thank you. Ruchka, Rose, Rosa. Жарганат на Каракалпакском. Thank you so much. I'm learning Karakalpak. Karakalpak, ручка, раковина, bat. Okay. Korshapalag. Okay. Jam, murabba. Okay. Roll, kalava, oram. Rosa, Bat, Korshapalag, Pen, Ruchka, Sink, Rakvina. Oh, I think, well done, guys. Your translation skills are very advanced. Atargul. Sink, Rakvina. Yumsharaq, Yugurmaq, Rosa, Bar, Jam, Ishgal. Goodness. Durdana, what kind of Ishgal are you talking about? Right. Okay, good. Thank you so much. This is one of the ways that we usually come across that most teachers assess their students' vocabulary. They usually ask their students, teacher usually gives the word, and on return, the student gives the translation. And I don't know how the student translates this. And now the same case, I don't know how you guys actually translated all these words to me, because a pen, a roll, sink, I don't know what kind of meaning you are giving to me. And because as you can see, you don't have any context here. Without context, how you were able to translate this? So that's really good question, right? So this is what usually happens in classroom situations. Okay, now let me move on to my next slide and ask you now to do. Okay, now let's have a look at the same words again, but this time they are given in context. So now can you check yourself whether your translations were correct or not? Like first one, the coach taught Mary how to grip the bat tightly as she was learning how to play cricket. So bat here, it's not koshapalak as many of you have written. So it's something else, and it's a instrument to play cricket, right? So next, could you please pen the dog in the kennel? So here, pen in the meaning keep, as you see. Next, soldiers were penned up in their barracks. So penned up again here in the meaning they stayed in their barracks. Can you help me roll up the carpet? So you can see here it's not orama, but it's used here as a verb just to roll oramak, right? As I cleared up the table, I felt my hand sink into the bowl of mashed potatoes. So here is, as you can see, it's not rakwena, but it is something else, right? So next, number 6, I have a run in my stockings. That's an interesting use of the word run. So usually this word is used by ladies, not by men, because men never wear stockings, as I believe. Run, as you translate into Russian, I don't know the Uzbek, you might actually write in Uzbek, what's it, in Russian, ladies call it strelka, right? So if you can write what is that word in Uzbek, yes, somebody is writing meanings of the words depend on the context. Yes, that's right. That's, oops. Shahnoza, can you please switch off your mic? Thank you so much. Okay. Next, number 7, the sun rose early this morning. I washed my hands with a bar of soap, and the guitar players sometimes jam together. So jam here, not ishkal, or this is a different meaning, jam. Okay, I understand, like in the first exercise, I didn't give you a context, and I just asked you to translate. This comes from your students as well. Sometimes your students may raise their hand and said, teacher, what does jam mean? Would you be able to translate if you don't know the context? Yeah, you might give the maybe a high frequency meaning, but you should ask for context to be able to translate the word correctly, right? Unfortunately, this happens like earlier in the first slide that I asked you. So people ask us, or people, even teachers ask sometimes their students to translate the vocabulary without any context, right? So this is one of the popular ways of checking, assessing vocabulary usually. Is it right? Is it wrong? So it's up to you to decide. So I will continue with the next slide, and let me move on. Oops. Yes. So if you want to design vocabulary item or vocabulary test, so we need to follow the following procedure. So the procedure is, first of all, we need to clarify the purpose. So I will be going and discussing each of the items later, okay? And defining the construct, and we'll also discuss what construct is, and hopefully some of my students know the construct very well here who are with us now. Select your target words, high frequency, low frequency, specialized and other types of vocabulary, and determine the modes of the performance, right? So let's discuss these in more detail and see. First of all, as we said, clarify the purpose. So what is your purpose of assessing your vocabulary? Is it to assess the number of words, high frequency words that your learner already knows or before the course of study? Or is it to assess learners' progress and identify the vocabularies that need further attention during the course of study, right? Or alternatively, at the end of your course, the vocabulary test that can provide information about the knowledge and the lexical items of the learner has already studied, right? So we have to be quite clear with the purpose of the test. Maybe you have some other purpose by assessing the vocabulary. I have just given as an example 3 here. Okay, so once we are clear about our purpose, so we have to define the construct. So construct means the ability or the abilities that we need to test. Here, usually our construct is about the syllabus related maybe items, syllabus related words or vocabulary, right? Because usually, as I told earlier in the classrooms, what happens is people check the words that already been learned by students just to make sure that students learned them by heart or not, right? So therefore, this is might be called syllabus-based approach to defining construct. So which words would you like to assess? So would you like to assess function words? So function words are prepositions, articles, conjunctions, and etc., right? Or the content words. Content words, we all know the nouns, adjectives, and adverbs. So they can be nouns can be of high frequency, low frequency, specialized vocabulary, right? And sub-technical vocabulary as well. So we have to be clear, so what sort of content words would like to assess. And how to identify and find out the frequency of the word, that's another question that you may want to ask. So I will just now show very quickly, maybe you all know this, but I will just again take this moment to show you how to identify the frequency of words. So for that, so I'll just stop this and I will move on. Okay, give me a second. For example, I just copy a ready work here, one of my students' work. Then I'll just demonstrate. Okay, so you all know Lex Tutor very well, right? So I hope that you have worked Lex Tutor to do maybe research or something else. As you can see in Lex Tutor, I'm here using Lex Tutor profile now, vocab profile. So Lex Tutor vocab profile gives 4 frequency levels. The first one is K1, K1000. And second one is K2000, then also academic word list and words that do not appear on the other list, right? So 4 different levels. So you can see here a box, right? So I can just copy and paste my own text here just to see. Okay, I have just copied and pasted the text. And let's see the frequency of vocabulary here. And then you can see here in yellow, submit window button. And I will just hit the submit window button. Okay, and as you can see in front of you, so you can see the statistics, right? So here you can see K1, so that's K1000. So these are high frequency words, words that are used a lot. So, and here again, you can see 99, so it's 214 words, right? And 82%, that's 82% of the words used by my students. These are high frequent words. And let's have a look at the content words. Our content words are 38.76. And now if you teach academic English or English for academic purposes, you might be interested in academic word list as well. And you can see here, this student used 8.14%, 8.14% academic vocabulary. So if you go little down, so you will be able to see which word is which. You can see, for example, red. By going red, we can see it's off-list words, right? Off-list, this is a level 4. And let's have a look at, for example, academic vocabulary lists here. It should be in yellow. And you can see this student is doing very well. So look at the words in yellow: technology, significant, I guess, because I don't see the whole screen, I'm sorry. Let me just change the screen, okay. All right, yes, significantly affected, interact, negative impact, positive impact. So you can see the student is using a lot of academic vocabulary as well, which is really good. If you look at usually students, university level students, courseworks, maybe papers, if you want to analyze the level of academic vocabulary they are using, you can put here and see. Usually it would be around university students, academic vocabulary level would be usually around 12%, not much, because you know that in total, the academic vocabulary list is not that big, but we should also encourage our students to use them. And as a teacher, if you want to see if your students are using a very good list of academic vocabulary, so you can check here. I mean, in the Lex Tutor by copying and pasting the student's work. Okay, right. If you have any questions about this Lex Tutor thing, I will be able to answer at the end. Please keep. Okay, I will continue. So I will just switch this off. Thank you. Right, I'll get back to my slides. Okay, sorry. Okay, sorry, now I'll have to get back. So we clarified purpose. We now knew the construct. So construct, we said the ability. So we know what kind of words we're going to assess, whether this is a function or content, or we would like to know the high frequency or low frequency. So I will be also talking more about strategies about low frequency a bit later, assessing the low frequency vocabulary. Okay, and the next thing we need to define is the mode of performance. mode of performance is the receptive, and receptive means whether students just will be able to recognize it, right? And productive means students will be able to use it, right? It comes from produce, so you know this very well. You need to make sure that would you like just students to recognize the vocabulary that you are going to assess, or you want the students to produce. So let's see how we can do this. So for example, here, in the receptive mode, we want just students to recognize, right? So the example is taken from the Brown's book, 2010. I have written here dichotomous scoring applies. What does this mean? This means that student chooses one answer here. So this might be either right or wrong. So you give the student either 1 point, or if it is wrong, you give 0. So that is what dichotomous scoring means. So it's either right or wrong. You don't go to a partial scoring. I mean, you don't give them 0.5 or 0.7. You can't really give this because here it's either right or wrong. That's what dichotomous scoring mean. So this is for recognition. This is a receptive mode. And let's have a look at another example of receptive. So here you can see high frequency word. My grandfather is a very independent person. So here it's really difficult for a student to guess the answer if they don't know the word independent. Student must know the word. Maybe, as we told earlier, this might be a syllabus-based approach test. So students already learned the word independent, and you want to assess the word independent. And now students have to go through all the options and choose the best option here. So student must know the word independent, otherwise you see there are all the qualities of the person, so it would be difficult without knowing the word independent. Okay, and now let's move on to next one. So here it's vocabulary in one sentence context, but low frequency. Low frequency word hazardous. Hazardous, so we don't use the word hazardous in every day life a lot. Yeah, maybe like, you know, like in Bukhara, there was this strong gale or a wind, right? So it might brought hazardous consequences, right? So usually we don't use the word hazardous, so therefore it's low frequency. And you can check your Alex tutor as well, so it shows that the word comes in the second 2000 words, K2, right? So here, one thing that we need to pay attention is, like, if students should be able to have strategies here. I will be talking about strategies a little bit later, but usually strategies are about teaching, but now I'm talking about assessing. But still, if the both teacher and the student know those strategies, that it would be really handy to answer these items. For example, here, hazardous, difficult, problematic, dangerous, and complicated. As you can see, all the options are negative. And it's not easy for a student to answer this if student knows the strategy called word group. then student will be able to answer this question easily. If you read this part, the second half of the sentence, it says fatal accidents. So by fatal accidents, you already say yes. So the answer must be dangerous, right? Because difficult, problematic, and complicated may not bring to fatal accidents, but dangerous. So by knowing the strategy word group, a student will be able to guess this. If you paid attention, you need a longer and a better context for low frequency words, because low frequency words, we don't usually use them in everyday life. So therefore, if you want your student to guess it or to do it correctly, yeah, give a better context. Okay, let me move on. Okay, and productive mode. In the productive mode, students will come up with a certain word or vocabulary themselves, as you can see here from the example. The restaurant is so popular that you have to make a if you want to eat there. So yeah, basically, so this is the correct word is reservation here, right? Make a reservation. So, and here you can see I have just written here, so partial credit scoring. What does this mean, partial credit scoring? So first of all, maybe student would come up with another word that may fit here and might be okay. In general, in the productive mode, you have to be very careful. And when you write the answer key, your answer key must show all the options, possible options for this item. Otherwise, you might not give enough to student. Partial credit scoring means here, let's say if the student wrote here, make reservations, reservations, right? So and reservations, so grammatically wrong, then you, if you are going to give 2 points to this item, then you would say, okay, so the vocabulary is right, but it's grammatically wrong. So maybe I would just give here 1, not 2, because basically this scoring allows to give half a point or maybe 1 or 1 out of 2, for example. So that's what it means, partial credit scoring. So you can give half of the full mark here. Okay, and if you have any questions about this, I will also answer later. Okay, before I move on to that one, I would like to give me a second. I would like to demonstrate one thing about strategies. Usually strategies are about teaching vocabulary, but it's also useful if the person who makes the tests knows them. They will be able to give enough context to be able to make the students, to enable the student to find it correctly. Give me a second, I'll be right with you. Okay, let me demonstrate now the screen. While you are teaching vocabulary, so there are different strategies that we need to teach our students, especially working with low frequency vocabulary. So here you can see the first one is context. So here in italics, we have the word curling heroes, right? So what does this mean? Reading this context, students should be able to guess the meaning of curling. And as a person who's writing the test, we also should be able to give enough context. Let's have a look at this first. In every country you visit, you will find a sport that captures the passion of the nation. New Zealand has its rugby supporters. England has its legions of the football fans. The Japanese have taken baseball to their hearts, and the Scotland still proudly supports its curling heroes. So you can see here, curling is the name of the sport. So we can know this because it says New Zealand has rugby, England has football, Japanese have baseball, Scotland has its curling heroes. So the context tells us curling is a sport, right? So it's a low frequency, maybe it's off word list level 4. So, but still there is enough context that students will be able to guess it from the context. Next is a contrast. So contrast, students should be able to contrast the vocabulary within the given context. Let's have a look at the given here, the paragraph. It should come as no surprise that younger people spend much time of their leisure time on their feet, engaged in energetic activities, whereas older people opt for more sedentary. So you can see here, sedentary is in italics. So what does sedentary mean? If we contrast, so we can see here, energetic activities and sedentary. So they are opposites, right? So by contrasting, students will be able to guess this from the context. Next is explanation. Sometimes when you give your students a reading, so write in a minute, your students raise their hand up and then says, teacher, I don't know this word. Can you please translate it? So sometimes the context gives the translation of the word, and what we need is we need to teach the students to guess it. Here, a good example. There are many examples of cooperation between people and dogs. Guide dogs, for example, give essential assistance to blind, while beagles, pay attention, while beagles, comma, small dogs with short legs are often used by hunters. So it already says what beagle is. So we can see beagle is small dog with short legs. Sometimes our students do not really pay attention to this, and then they say, oh, I don't know this word. But if they read the context until the end, they might be able to guess the meaning. Next is word group. I already talked about word group earlier as well. So let's have a look at another example here. So as you can see here, abhorrent is in italics. So what kind of sport is it? Is it a positive? It's a negative. So by reading the second sentence, we will be able to guess the meaning. So you can see here, it says violent. So this is again the word group. So looking at the abhorrent and violent, we will be able to say, yes, that's quite a negative sport, right? Okay, and the last technique is a logic. So let's have a look at these here. Although technology has made mountain climbing both safer and easier, it's not a sport without risks. Bad weather can come quickly and last for long periods, and the effects of severely cold weather can lead to hypothermia and, if untreated, death. So here you can see hypothermia. Yeah, some of you might know this word, but it's fine. But what you need to attract your students' attention is this part: if untreated, death. So by that, you will be able to deduce that a hypothermia is kind of illness, right? So if you know these strategies, you will be able to use one of these when you are compiling your own test, and especially with low frequency vocabulary. So that's important. Okay, let me continue with my slide now. Okay. Yes. Okay. Here, so communicative approach to testing. You know, communicative language teaching, right? So there is also communicative approach to testing. So here now, testing also changed so much, and the testing vocabulary has changed as well. So far, we discussed with you the discrete items, single items that are in small context, right? But with the development of the communicative language teaching, so communicative approach testing is also used. So now here, extended responses are required. Oh, so what is extended response here? So this might be essay, this might be descriptive writing. So we don't now just assess the vocabulary in small context, but assess the vocabulary in an extended response, where this extended response can be scored either analytically or holistically. So analytically means you actually use set of assessment criteria to assess this. Holistically means you give overall impression. You don't usually look at criteria at all, because this is just a holistic. You look at overall. So as you can see, now in many proficiency tests like IELTS or Cambridge tests, so vocabulary, in some Cambridge tests, vocabulary is still assessed as discrete items, but in other tests like IELTS, vocabulary is assessed indirectly. Indirectly means here it's assessed through your speaking, it's assessed through your writing your essay or a report, or maybe a letter or letter of complaint. So it's assessed through these sort of different types of writing. Basically, that's what I would like to talk about today. If you have questions, please type in the chat. I will try to answer. I know that, I mean, I just gave a quick overview to assessing vocabulary, but assessing vocabulary is much, much bigger than this. But I know that within this short period of time, I wouldn't be able to talk about everything. Okay, if you have questions, you can write your questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Erkin.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay, so can you see the chat?
Yeah, there is a question about ESP. Yes, exactly. You can use those strategies with ESP as well, because this is generally about the vocabulary, and ESP vocabulary can be tested through these strategies as well. Any other questions? Somebody asking about long haircut. What is long haircut? I don't know. Any other questions? Can you see? Could you give an example of low frequency words? Yeah, yes. Low frequency words are K2 words. K2 means 2,000 words. As I told earlier, hazardous, for example, that's a good example of K2. It's not the everyday vocabulary, right? Or for example, another example would be deteriorate. Deteriorate is not a K1. It's not a high frequency word. It's a quite a low frequency word. Does that answer your question, Dodona? Okay. Any other questions? What are your students' majors, and now this applied to? Well, I teach both master students who are going to be English language specialists, and also I work with business students who are going to be working in the business sphere in the future. Okay, okay, assessing grammar, thank you. So yes, assessing grammar will be hosted by British Council. You are welcome to join. Any other suggestions for assessing vocabulary in academic writing? Thanks. In academic writing, is yes, you actually assess this in the context and indirectly, and this is actually a better way, because you will be able to see whether your students are using a certain vocabulary in the right context or not. Is LexTutor a special program? LexTutor is a site, it's a Canadian site, and Nadira might know this very well. And you can do lots of different things, especially related to research, if you are interested in research in the vocabulary. So you can use LexTutor. It's a huge site with lots of nice features. So please go to lextutor.ca and enjoy exploring. Thank you. Yeah, Ulubek put it already there. Thank you, Ulubek. Okay, I am pro business too. I assume that specific vocabulary stocks must be created. Yes, if you are teaching ESP, of course, you pay attention to ESP related vocabulary. I agree with this. Thank you, Halima. Okay. I mean, the special terminology I don't understand. Should we focus on K2 words when designing? Okay, Ayalita, thank you for your question. It depends on the level of your students, and it depends what you are teaching. If you are teaching your students general English, I am sure that your focus usually would be K1 because that's what we actually use in daily life. But if you work with specialist ESP, your focus might be sometimes K2 or even academic word list as well, depending on your aim. Okay. Not in the list, in the vocabulary, what is it? Thanks for presentation. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions?
Mr. Erkin?
Yes.
First, thanks for such productive presentation. I wrote in the chat, my question was not so clear as there are other questions appeared. In vocab profile, I see the not in the list, I mean off list part, right?
Oh, yes, yes. That's it. That's level 4. Level 4 means, yeah, they are not in K1, they are not in the K2, they are not in the academic word list, but they are, so it's the fourth category. Okay, so that's what it means, off list. Okay?
Maybe you mean their terminologies specifically?
They may be terminologies, they may be names. For example, if you have used Uzbek name in your essay and you put it, this will appear in that list, okay?
Ah, I see. And one more question.
Yeah.
If we take one text and I consider it interesting for my student, but the level is higher, and I put this text in the part of vocab profile, and if I see the advanced words, can I modify them or substitute them with the other easier words and modify the text overall?
Okay, thank you very much for your question. So it's about authenticity. So it depends by modifying how much you modify, that's a question. And by modifying, so you may be able to spoil the text, I mean, damage the text, the authenticity might disappear. So therefore, it depends. Maybe it's better to find the text that's relevant rather than modifying. You can modify maybe slightly, but you have to be careful because you might spoil the authenticity of the text.
Yeah, keeping original. Thank you so much.
Okay. Okay, for IELTS essays, K1 academic word list would be higher than scores. Yeah, for IELTS, maybe, yes, students will try to use more academic words and as well as maybe K2. So, yeah, because for IELTS as well, it's not only about the word, the level, it's also the density of the message, okay? How dense is your message? So you will be able to score higher if your message is dense as well as using high profile vocabulary. Okay, thank you. Could you explain analytical and holistical score? Yes, analytical I already told. So it's when you do analytical scoring, you look at the assessment criteria and your judgment is based on the criteria. When you do holistical scoring, your judgment is just general, your own holistic approach. You say in general, so this work is fail, for example, or this work is pass. So that's what holistic means. Can you please give us more detailed description of assessing and evaluating, as majority of Scottish confuse these two terms? Assessing and evaluation might be more general than assessment because you can evaluate the whole curriculum. For me, evaluation is more kind of an umbrella term rather than an assess. Okay.
I have a
next
question, Dr. Erkin Mukhammedov. I am pro business English too, but my evolution,
okay.
my personal evolution, my personal development is a span of about 50 years, beginning from MBA diploma at university, then getting 5 certificates from BZIC. You know BZIC? It is an extra business English group at the LTF. And the last one was coach, also business English teacher tutoring. We have a special organization for general English here, USTIA, but many people position themselves business English. Maybe we organize some group of teachers or an extra organization and to speak business English because it is very timely today to help businesses in Uzbekistan very professionally, I should say. I like your approach working with this showing, but I always have the problem, for example, in explanation with incentives. People do not understand. And only if I explain in English, in Uzbek, people do understand it. Because some words have some correlation in Uzbek or in Russian. Therefore, if you agree, maybe we can a group of Uzbek business English teachers.
Okay, I'm sorry, what's your name?
Halima Azimova.
Okay, Halima Zimova, I'll just tell you one thing that maybe some of the colleagues here might give you the link to. There's already a association called ESP, and ESP, actually Business English already comes under ESP. And if you talk to these colleagues, you will be able maybe to set up your own special interest group within the under this ESP association.
Okay.
If
Yes.
colleagues, can I ask you if you know the telephone numbers or responsible people in the ESP?
Yes, I know. I can say that I have a bank of ESP teachers in Uzbekistan because I work in a very long time, and I write case studies. You know, in case studies,
Yeah.
choosing words is so important. You must, so to say, to recall your case study. Nobody could understand what are going on, but then you give solution in a marketing like this. And nowadays it's very useful, needed in Uzbekistan. Okay, thank you. Are you at Gmail? I have missed your email address.
Yeah, it's in the beginning of the slide, and this is recorded, and this will be available.
So it is easy to find if you are in Gmail. Yes, thank you very much.
Yes, it is easy
Thank
to
you.
find. Thank you so much. Any other questions, colleagues? If you don't have questions, I will hand you over to Nadira. Is that right? Nadira, are you there somewhere?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you so much, Erkin. Yeah, that was, someone is saying that was awesome. Ulugh saying, yes, it's just that what I wanted to say. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing your expertise and giving the overview of the current approaches and methodology for underlying the vocabulary assessment. Yes, thank you all. We'll call it a day. Thank you and bye. Have a good day.
Thank you, colleagues, for joining and enjoy. And if you want to come and join the grammar assessment, please do on Friday. See you there.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. So just to announce, so tomorrow we will have a webinar with Macmillan. So do you remember, if you got the codes for the digital ebooks, please join the webinar to get an idea how to activate those codes and be able to use the books. And then on Friday, we'll have another webinar with Anna Taylor. Erkin, what time is your webinar?
It's 4 o'clock.
Okay, so we'll have at 8 p.m. Yes, so that
people have a chance to attend both.
Exactly, yes. Okay, great. Thank you so much. Bye. Have a nice one. Good one.
Bye-bye. Thank you.